Right, greetings, fellow grade 10s. It's Mr. Klaja again. Welcome to another video, right? So, what we are examining now, basically, we are looking at a paper from November. I think this is the paper from November, and this is an Eastern Cape, right? So, this is a November Eastern Cape paper, and I think this was 2022 exam, right? So, basically, we are going to look at this particular trig function. Now, what is it that we are going to do now? Firstly, they say we are given the sketch of now f of x is equals to sine ax and g of x, which is equals to cos into bracket x subtract b, which is given, right? Now, the first question require us to determine or to find out what is going to be the value of a and b, right? Now, so and then now, in order for us to be to find out what is going to be the value of a and b, uh then we are going to see. So let's start here. So for your 8.1, what we are going to do here, firstly, we are going to say now, to determine our value of our a, which one now consists of that, or which function is going to be that, right? Now, this is basically going to be this graph of, now, if you can look at this one, the first one, this one, the red one, it is the graph of sine, while this other one, right? While this other one, let's make that to be color. This other one, this one, it is the graph of cos, isn't it so? So now what is it that we are going to do with this graph? Now, for us to determine what is going to be the a of this graph, so basically the a here in this particular graph represents the period, right? The period. And what basically now period means, basically period is the time it takes for our graph to complete one full cycle, right? And for us to have an understanding of a full cycle, we are saying basically now here it is when your graph start here and it finishes here, right? So basically that is a complete period, isn't it so? So now this value of our a represent a full a period, and we want to find out in terms of how long does it take for this graph of sine, basically for this graph of sine to be what to complete one full cycle. So what we are going to do, we are going to say now, look, now if you can start here, this graph here, if you can start here and you move up until here, you'll realize that this graph from here to here, it is going to what? It is going to take 180 degrees, right? To complete one full cycle. And now, in order for us to then answer our question, we are going to say, look, we are saying now, period period is given by what? It is given by 360 degrees. So now in this case, it's going to be divided by a. But now we are saying already the period that it takes for this particular graph to complete one full cycle, it is 108, which means we already have our period for this particular graph of sine. So this is going to be 180 is equals to 360 over the a, right? Then we cross multiply, which means this is going to be 180 a is equals to 360 divide by 180 degrees, divide by 180 degrees, and you'll realize that actually the value of your value of your a is going to be equals to 2. How to get? So basically now that is going to be that, which means what it means basically that in 360 degrees, you are going to have how many full cycles? You are going to have another full cycle there. So which means if this graph was continuing to 360, you are going to have two complete cycles for the graph of sine, right? So basically that's what it means. Now, let's look at now the value of our b. So basically now, in this context, the value of our b is the graph of cos is this one, right? The graph of cos, it is basically this one. Let's get something nicer there that we can see, right? Now we are saying the graph of cos is this blue one, right? And ordinarily, the graph of cos, the mother function of a graph of cos, it started 1 here, it moves like this, right? So the graph of simply cos x, it is just like this, right? But now, if you can look at this one, this x subtract b, which means this graph, it is shifted, right? It is shifted horizontally, right? Because the b here represents the what? It represents the horizontal shift. It represents the horizontal shift. And now for us to understand in terms of the horizontal shift, it means shifted to either your left or your right, isn't it so? So that is basically your horizontal shift. And now, how are we then going to come up with this one? We are going to say now, if you can check, we are saying the original graph, of course, start here, which means it start here at 1 and 0 degrees, right? But now, if you can look at it, basically it is somewhere here, right? It is somewhere here, right? It is somewhere here. So basically that is going to be the graph, of course. So now we need therefore to find out in terms of what is going to be that particular value of our B, right? Now there are many things that you can literally do for you to find out what is going to be the value of your B, right? The easier way to note is that, look, now for our graph, of course, right? If you can check here, now, we are saying this is going to what? Now we are going to say, we can simply just say now this is a graph of g of x is equals to cos into x subtract b, right? Then we can simply just take one coordinate from that particular graph and substitute and see in terms of what is it that we are going to find, isn't it so? So we can simply just take one coordinate and say, now if you are taking this one, if you are taking if you can look at this particular graph, it is intersecting here at negative 120, isn't it so? And ordinarily, your graph, of course, if it was continuing up until here, it was going to intersect at what? It was going to intersect at your what? I think it was going to intersect at 90 degrees altogether. So which means what happened is moving from 90 degrees to 120 degrees, it is 30 degrees, right? So which means basically the value of your B, the graph is shifted to what? 30 degrees to the left, which means the entire graph it is taken and is shifted 30 degrees to the left, right? So that's basically what you need to consider for that. And now for your 8.3, right? Now for 8.3, they say now for which values of x is going to be what? For which values of x where x is less than 0, right? So now this one, it is important. So they are saying where x is less than 0, which means we know that if the graph of x multiplied by the graph of g of x is greater or equals to 0, basically it's going to be where now for you to have a positive number, you need to have a positive and a positive number, because when you multiply positive and positive, you are still getting something that is greater than 0, right? And similarly, if you can multiply a negative with a negative, you are going to get something that is greater than 0, right? So which means now therefore for you to solve this one, you're going to simply look at this way, right? If you can start here and here, right? What is it that you can realize from both of this graph, right? If you can start from both of these, you'll realize that this graph here, it is moving upward up until here, right? So if you can just look at these, both of this graph. Now, this particular graph, what is happening? This graph here, it increases from here up until here, and then here it's going to be less, right? And now, if you are starting from where? Now, if you are starting here, right? If you can start here, this one is increasing while this one is decreasing, right? So which means both of these, it's not going to work. But now, if you can start here, now here at, let's say we start here at negative 120 and then we continue upward. What is it that you can realize? What is it that you can take note here? Both of these graphs here, right? Both of this graph, this particular graph here at negative 120, and what? And negative 90 degrees. If you can look at up until here, what is it that you're going to what is it that you're going to get now, right? Now both of these graphs here, the graph here and then from here, and the graph starting from here moving this way and this graph moving both ways, right? Now both of these graphs are going to be what? Are going to be greater than 0, right? They are greater than 0, but now both of these graphs here, the other one is decreasing here, it going downward, and the other one is increasing, going upward. Are we together? So which means basically where the graph of x is going to be less than 0, it's going to be where the graph, it is increasing, it is going downward, while this one is going to upward. Are we together? So basically, that is going to be that particular portion where both of these graphs are doing that. Are we together? So which means now we are going to just conclude that this is going to be where your x is in between negative 120 degrees and where it's between negative 120 degrees and negative 90 degrees, right? So basically, that's where both of these graphs are going to be less than 0. And when you multiply, both of these graphs are going to be greater than 0. And both of them are above. Can you see that both of these graphs are above the x-axis? Are we together? Now, let's look at the next question. Now for 8.4. Now they say determine the equation of f of x if y-axis is 30 degrees to the left, right? If for the graph of f of x, it is moved 30 degrees to the left, right? Now, what is it that you're going to take note of here? Now, remember the graph of f of x. Now, it is what? The graph of f of x is what? It is given by sine of 2x, because we found out that the value of a is 2, right? Now, if you are moving this graph now 30 degrees to the left, 30 degrees to the left is going to be indicated by what? This is going to be same as what now? Which means you are going to have this sine of 2. Then this is going to be into bracket x, and 30 degrees to the left is going to be what? It's going to be minus 30 degrees, isn't it so? So basically, that is going to be that particular new equation that you're going to have for this graph to be shifted, isn't it so? Then I think that is as far as this question is concerned. Thank you very much.